जुगौ श्री भगवान कृष्ण कीर्तन गान कृष्ण कीर्तन गान नर्तन परम प्रेम वीर वीर जन प्रिय प्रिय करो निर्माण पूजित श्री चैतन्य कृपा भरौ चैतन्य कृपा भरौ भुवि भुव मारव अंतरकौ वंदे रूप सनातन रघुजुगौ श्री विचारणैक निपुणौ सद्धर्म संस्थापकौ लोकानां हितकारिणं त्रिभुवने मन्नं शरण करो विचारणैक निपुणौ सद्धर्म संस्थापक लोकानां हितकारिणं त्रिभुवने मन्नं शरण विचारणैक निपुणौ तद्धर्म संस्थापक लोकानां हितकारिणं त्रिभुवने मन्नं शरण श्री चैतन्य कृपा भरौ लोकानां हितकारिणं त्रिभुवने मन्नं शरण करो Kangunang Dharma Samastapaka Bhuvane Mannam Sarunakara Radha Krishna Radha Krishna Padara Bindau Bhajanamritau Radha Krishna Padara Bindau Bhajana Nandela Mattalika Vande Rupa Sanatanam Raghujugal Siji Krishna Kitana Gana Natala Parau Prema Manidhi Veera Veera Janapriya Nirma Udita Sri Caitanya Kripa Bharau Bhubi Bhuba Mara Mahanta Rakau Bande Rupa Chanatanam Yakuduga Tatva Sudasure Chatasure Sitarajalakin Dharnisha Ajavadasa Jadagada Ranna Mandalasanim Sada Tuchava Uttvadi Nagane Sato Karunaya Mandalapati Sanim Sada Tuchava Bhutvadi Nagane Chako Karunaya Kopina Kanhasitau Gopi Bhavara Samritabdalahari Gopi Bhavara Samritabdalahari कल्लोलमग्नं वन्दे रूप सनातनं रघुजुगौ श्रीजीव गोपालक। हे राधे ब्रज देविके च हे नंद सूना राधा कृष्ण को गोपनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड वृंदावन धाम की जय, नवदीप धाम की जय, गंगा माई की जय, जमुना माई की जय, द्वारका धाम की जय, स्वामी भक्तवृंद की जय। All glories to the Lord. All glories to the Lord.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Nandava Pranam Maharaj, we are very happy to have you on our platform, Maharaj.
Thank you.
Yes,
Happy
Maharaj.
to be here.
Yes, Maharaj. So our devotee will be joining as you proceed, Maharaj. So please, we can start, Maharaj.
Start, yeah? Okay.
Yes, Maharaj.
All right. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presta Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastityades Tarne Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakaptaribhyascha kripa sindhu bhyevacha. Paditanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna devotees from Hare Krishna Africa. So we got a verse to read today, Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 5, verse 36. And I looked through it, I read through the whole thing, and it's a pretty substantial verse. I mean, purport, it's pretty substantial. So anyway, that's fine. We'll just read through. So here we go. Kuravana Yatra Karamani. Well, it's Srimad Bhagavatam 1.536. Kuravana Yatra Karamani Bhagavach Chikshaya Sakrit Grinanti Guna Namani Krishnas Yanu Smaranti Cha. And the translation: while performing duties according to the order of Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one constantly remembers him, his names, and his qualities. Yes, okay. So, and the purport by Srila Prabhupada, as I said, it's a pretty substantial purport, but let's just read it. There's quite a bit of interesting information there, actually. So, purport: an expert devotee of the Lord can mold his life in such a way that while performing all kinds of duties, either for this or the next life, he can constantly remember the Lord's name, fame, qualities, etc. The order of the Lord is distinctly there in the Bhagavad Gita. One should work only for the Lord in all spheres of life. In every sphere of life, the Lord should be situated as the proprietor. According to the Vedic rites, even in the worship of some demigods like Indra, Brahma, Saraswati, and Ganesh, the system is that in all circumstances, the representation of Vishnu must be there as Yagyeshwara, or the controlling power of such sacrifices. It is recommended that a particular demigod be worshipped for a particular purpose. But still the presence of Vishnu is compulsory in order to make the function proper. Apart from such Vedic duties, even in our ordinary dealings, for example, in our household affairs or in our business or profession, we must consider that the result of all activities must be given over to the Supreme Enjoyer, Lord Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord has declared himself to be the supreme enjoyer of everything, the supreme proprietor of every planet, and the supreme friend of all beings. No one else but Lord Sri Krishna can claim to be the proprietor of everything within his creation. A pure devotee remembers this constantly, and in doing so, he repeats the transcendental name, fame, and qualities of the Lord, which means that he is constantly in touch with the Lord. The Lord is identical with his name, fame, etc., and therefore to be associated with his name, fame, etc., constantly means actually to associate with the Lord. The major portion of our monetary income, not less than 50%, must be spent to carry out the order of Lord Krishna. Not only should we give the profit of our earning to this cause, but we must also arrange to preach this cult of devotion to others, because that is also one of the orders of the Lord. The Lord definitely says that no one is more dear to him than one who's always engaged in the preaching work of the Lord's name and fame all over the world. The scientific discoveries of the material world can also be equally engaged in carrying out his order. He wants the message of the Bhagavad Gita. Just a moment. Haribol, I'm giving a class. I'm giving class. There's no sound.
No sound anywhere. Page, not page.
Oh no! Well, I'm not broadcasting. I'm only broadcasting to the African page.
All right. Sorry then.
Yeah, it's complicated. Yeah, it's too complicated now. It's too late now. I'm sorry.
No problem. Hare Krishna.
Oh God. Excuse me. There are devotees from all other countries who wanted to join in, but anyway, it's complicated. So where are we? Yeah. The Lord definitely says that no one is more dear to him than one who's always engaged in the preaching work of the Lord's name and fame all over the world. The scientific discoveries of the material world can also be equally engaged in carrying out his order. He wants the message of the Bhagavad Gita to be preached amongst his devotees. It may not be so done amongst those who have no credit of austerities, charity, education, etc. Therefore, the attempt must go on to convert unwilling men to become his devotees. Lord Caitanya has taught a very simple method in this connection. He has taught the lesson for preaching the transcendental message through singing, dancing, and refreshment. As such, 50% of our income may be spent for this purpose. In this fallen age of quarrel and dissension, if only the leading and wealthy persons of society agree to spend 50% of their income in the service of the Lord, as it's taught by Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, there is absolute certainty of converting this hell of pandemonium to the transcendental abode of the Lord. No one will disagree to partake in a function where good singing, dancing, and refreshment are administered. Everyone will attend such a function, and everyone is sure to feel individually the transcendental presence of the Lord. This alone will help the attendants associate with the Lord and thereby purify themselves in spiritual realization. The only condition for successfully executing such spiritual activities is that they must be conducted under the guidance of a pure devotee who is completely free from all mundane desires, fruitive activities, and dry speculations about the nature of the Lord. No one has to discover the nature of the Lord. It is already spoken by the Lord himself in the Bhagavad Gita especially, and in all other Vedic literatures generally. We have simply to accept them in toto and abide by the orders of the Lord. That will guide us to the path of perfection. One can remain in his own position. If one has to change his position, especially in this age of variegated difficulties, the only condition is that one must give up the habit of dry speculation aimed at becoming one with the Lord. And after giving up such lofty, puffed up vanities, one may very submissively receive the orders of the Lord in the Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam from the lips of a bona fide devotee whose qualification is mentioned above. That will make everything successful without a doubt. Hare Krishna. I'll just access my book. Okay. Kuravana Yatra Karamani Bhagavat Chikshaya Sakrit Grinanti Guna Karamani Krishnas Yanu Smaranti Cha. While performing duties according to the order of Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one constantly remembers him, his names, and his qualities. So there you are, devotees. That's a really, really nice verse with all sorts of interesting information in it. Really a lot of interesting information. So this is the 5th chapter of the 1st canto. It's Narada's instructions to Srila Vyasadeva on Srimad Bhagavatam. And basically at this point, Narada Muni is just kind of beginning or giving foundational knowledge, you could say like that. Giving foundational knowledge about Krishna consciousness. And, if you're familiar with the story, I don't know if you're regularly going through this particular chapter and these verses, or if you chose this particular verse especially. But, here Narada Muni has told his own story. Just a few verses before, he concluded, not even concluded, he's still telling it actually, but he told some of the important parts of his own story of how he was a small child. He got the association of great devotees, and in this way he became a devotee himself. And just, you could say the implications of all of that, the effect that all of that had on him, it really transformed his life dramatically. And even though he was just a child, but he just became a different person. His whole life and he himself as a person became greatly transformed through that association. And this verse and purport here, 1 Canto chapter 5, verse 36, this point about association, we can just have a little look, consider this point of association here and the effects it has. Because it's such an important factor in this verse and in this whole sequence of verses here at this point, which Narada Muni is speaking to Srila Vyasadeva. So in the beginning of the purport, Srila Prabhupada makes the point that a devotee who is expert, not all devotees are expert in Krishna consciousness, but a devotee who is expert will be able to change, mold. Prabhupada uses the word mold. Mold his life in general, all different aspects of his life, so that while doing whatever he does or whatever he or she does, while doing whatever they do, even just in their normal lives, they are facilitated in remembering the Lord's name, fame, qualities, pastimes, remembering them. Anyway, Prabhupada talks about remembering them and dedicating all these things to Lord Krishna. Not dedicating, the chanting and everything, that's already dedicated, but dedicating even the work, the family situation, the business, occupational duties, whatever interactions there are with the people in general, dedicating all of those to Krishna consciousness and doing those things and dealing with those things in such ways that practically everything they do, it helps stimulate their Krishna consciousness further. Prabhupada in the purport refers to, he doesn't exactly quote directly, but he refers to very famous verse from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 27. Yat karoshi yad ashnasi, yad jahoshi dadasi yat tapasya sakuntaya, tat karushva mad arpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. You know, I think you've heard this verse before. You know, maybe I don't know so many of you personally, because in Africa, you know, I've only been in South Africa, actually. I've never been anywhere else in Africa. I mean, Mauritius, if you consider that Africa, but it's not like, you know, the continent of Africa. I once passed through the air. Oh, I've been to Malawi. That's right. I went to Malawi for a week a few years ago. But there, you know, the devotees, the people, they're sort of 90%, if not more, at least 90% preaching to Indian people who are living there, which is fine, but it's not exactly preaching to Africa. Anyway, I passed through Harare once, the airport. I passed through the airport in Nairobi once. That's about as far as like real Africa is concerned. I mean, other than, you know, here in South Africa, where there's plenty of real Africa. But the rest of Africa, you know, I'm not so familiar with. So, yeah, so the thing is, anyway, in this regard, I don't know you all so much. I don't know what's going on so much. And what sort of persons you are, how you practice Krishna consciousness, how you apply it in the social environments in which you're living, in your different parts of Africa, wherever you are. But this is the idea here, like I mentioned, that, as Prabhupada says, someone who is expert in Krishna consciousness, you can put them in any situation. Actually, literally any situation of work, of society in general, interacting with the regular people. You can put them in any situation and they will be able to apply themselves in whatever that situation is in Krishna conscious ways, so that in their work, in their interactions with the ordinary people, their Krishna consciousness becomes inspired further. Because they're expert. That's what Prabhupada said. They're expert. And because of that expertise in Krishna consciousness, they can apply themselves in all these different situations in really Krishna conscious ways. Without, very expertly, without hassling the people. They can do it very nicely, so the people, many of the people at least will find it interesting and will take interest in Krishna consciousness because of how nicely those devotees are doing it. Even just ordinary work. The devotees do work very nicely, and the ordinary people, sometimes they ask that, how do you do it so nicely? And they find out that because the devotee is a devotee. Therefore, when they do their ordinary work, they do it very nicely and in Krishna conscious ways. There's one devotee who's in touch with me a little bit, not so much, but a little bit. He is from somewhere in the Middle East. I forget exactly. Sure, I don't know where it is exactly, but I don't think it's Egypt. Maybe it's Egypt, but it's maybe one of the other countries around in that area. And he's a taxi driver. And he's got a family, and this is how he maintains everything. So when he is driving his taxi, and so many people he's carrying in his taxi, he obviously, he first of all speaks to them about Krishna and sees, and he speaks to them so nicely that many of them become interested, because he does it very nicely, because there is some expertise. And he carries books with him, and he gives the people books, and they buy the books, and he gives them prasadam. So he's one example, but there are many examples. There's a huge number of disciples, of examples of devotees who have that sort of expertise through their developed Krishna consciousness. They are able in practically, like in their working situations and whatever situations they get into in their life in general, they're able to inject Krishna consciousness. Actually, I mentioned the taxi driver from the Middle East. There was, Srila Prabhupada had one disciple, you probably heard of Jayananda. And Jayananda, unfortunately passed away, but he was a very prominent devotee. In the sort of late 60s, and particularly early into the middle of the 70s, he was very prominent in Prabhupada's movement. I was in England, but we all knew about Jayananda. So anyway, but in the very beginning of the movement, he was temple president in San Francisco. And he was also, would you believe it, he was also a taxi driver. And he wrote to Prabhupada one time, and he complained that, Srila Prabhupada, I am in complete maya, because I'm driving these people around in my taxi. And someone I'm driving to meet his girlfriend for illicit sex. Someone I'm driving to meet his friends at the bar, at the hotel, so they can take intoxication. So all these types of situations I'm in. I'm in complete maya. I'm in complete maya. And Prabhupada, because Jayananda was temple president, and he was using all the money he was getting for running the temple. So Prabhupada replied to him that, no, you are not in maya. You are in pure Krishna consciousness, because you are using all the funds for Krishna consciousness. In that case, he was using for the temple, because he was temple president. But if someone is a householder and they're getting money from whatever they're doing, and they're using it to maintain their family in Krishna consciousness, then just like Prabhupada said to Jayananda, it's Krishna consciousness. So this is a type of skill. This is a type of skill which devotees really should learn. It's a really important skill to learn. How to, how to practice Krishna consciousness in such ways that that whatever situation you're in, you can be Krishna conscious and you can bring Krishna consciousness into that situation. Yeah, so anyway, I just thought I'd mention that in the beginning here, that all of us as devotees, we need to develop this type of expertise through cultivation of Krishna consciousness, so that whatever situation we're in, we can put Krishna consciousness into it, and in that way, we can be Krishna conscious anywhere and everywhere. So it depends on, like Prabhupada uses this term, expert devotee. It depends on being somewhat developed in Krishna consciousness, actually. That's the fact. That is the fact. And in that regard, Srila Prabhupada, just to clarify that we are talking here about a more advanced devotee. And we should all become advanced like that. It's not just some special devotee, but we should all progress in Krishna consciousness. So to emphasize this, Srila Prabhupada, he makes the point that it's in the second paragraph. Srila Prabhupada there refers to, again, Bhagavad Gita, but this time it's chapter 5, verse 29. It's another very famous verse. I'm sure many of you are familiar with it. Prabhupada called this verse the peace formula. Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suridam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shantim richati. A person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme Lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. Right. So that's a very famous verse, which Prabhupada refers to many times in different places. And here, in the second paragraph of our purport here of this particular verse, Prabhupada quotes it or indirectly or whatever, paraphrases it at least. And it's the same, similar or same point. In the first paragraph, Prabhupada talks about an expert devotee who can mold his or her life in such ways that while doing anything, whatever it is, they remember the Lord, they're fixed in Krishna consciousness. And now in this second paragraph, Srila Prabhupada talks about he says, a pure devotee remembers constantly these 3 points from this verse, chapter 5, verse 29 of Bhagavad Gita. There are 3 points. And the pure devotee, Prabhupada says, remembers these 3 things. How Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, Krishna is the supreme proprietor, and Krishna is the supreme friend. Friend just say friend, benefactor, helper. So this is also a little bit advanced. I mean, it is also an advanced level of Krishna consciousness. It takes some time to come to this point. But we all, including you all, we really need to come to this point in our Krishna consciousness. We are not here in Krishna consciousness just, just for the prasadam, just to get some food. We're not here just for friendship or, we're definitely not just here for a place to stay. We are here to make progress in Krishna consciousness. We're here to advance and to come to the level which Prabhupada is talking about here, and which Narada Muni is referring to here, of doing your work, doing everything, raising your family, doing your work, associating with other people, only in Krishna consciousness, only for the Lord, for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah, so this we need to cultivate. How are we going to do that? Well, of course, there are the basics in Krishna consciousness. There are the basics. We got to chant 16 rounds. We got to follow the regulative principles. And just by doing that, just by doing those things, chanting 16 rounds, following the principles, that will have a revolutionary effect on our lives. And what to speak of engaging in different other services, just as Prabhupada says in the 3rd paragraph, which we'll have a look at in a moment, that we should preach. We should preach. We should be Krishna conscious, make ourselves Krishna conscious, and then we should help others to become Krishna conscious. This is Krishna consciousness. This is the way of life of Krishna consciousness. Yeah. So we need to cultivate this. And we need to cultivate that consciousness by our chanting, by our maintaining our standards, but then also by associating with the devotees. Yeah. And rendering different types of services. If we do like that, and if we really work on that, then wherever we go, whatever the situation is, we will be in ecstasy. We will be in great happiness, really great happiness. And because we'll be focused nicely in Krishna consciousness. Now, in the 3rd paragraph, why don't you just, who is this now? Oh, I don't know. Anyway, whoever it is, Hare Krishna Africa, Prabhu. Why don't you just put up the purport again? Can you put the, yeah. Thanks. Okay, yeah, we want to look at this last paragraph, the major portion of our monetary income. Okay, yeah, no, go back up slightly. Yeah, right, that'll do. That's right. Yeah. Anyway, I want to see the first line of it again. The major, right? Stop. The major portion of our monetary income, not less than 50%, must be spent to carry out the order of Lord Krishna. Now, I think some of you are householders. I think so. I mean, the great majority of devotees anywhere in the world are householders. So I assume some, however many of you are householders, and you know what it's like. If you got a family, you got some a wife, husband, you got some children, you know what it's like. It's not so easy. If anyone tells me that it's easy, then I tell you, I'll tell him he's a liar. It's not easy within this material world, because it's just not easy working in a material job, and the boss tries to give you as little as possible and make you work as much as possible, all these types of things. So it's not easy. So I know that many devotees, when they hear this statement, this very statement here, which we just read a couple of minutes ago, how the major portion of our monetary income, not less than 50%, must be spent to carry out the order of Lord Krishna. Now, so what does this mean? That's a very important question. What is it actually? What is the intention, the idea behind it? Well, of course, if you are rich, if you are a rich person, which I suspect not so many of you are, I'm not. If you're a rich person, you can give 50% of the total amount that you make every month. And it's not going to be a problem if you're really a rich person. It's not going to be a problem. You'll have plenty for living on. But now, if we just look at the next sentence there, not only should we give the profit of our earning to this cause, but we must also arrange to preach this cult of devotion to others, because that's also one of the orders of the Lord. Yeah, and the understanding, the official understanding, I can tell you, in the GBC body, the international GBC body, the official understanding is that a person should give 50% of what is left over after they have met their financial obligations in terms of maintaining themselves, maintaining their families. Yeah, they should, not that just out of the actual total that you earn, you must give 50%. And if you don't give 50% of the total, then you're a bad devotee. You're a nonsense. This is not the idea. Now, some devotees challenge this understanding. I'm a GBC member, and I know through a lot of experience Any time that a GBC says something, someone will challenge it. So this understanding of 50%, some people challenge it, some people don't accept, and they take it to mean just straight 50% of the total. Anyway, like I said, the official understanding from the GBC body is, and it's like Prabhupada is indicating it here, that we should give the profit of our earning. In other words, we should try to maintain ourselves and our families in not an extravagant way, in a simple way. You don't have to live under a tree or, live in just some very austere situation. You have to be responsible to maintain the family in a decent way, but not an extravagant way. And then over and above that, then 50% should be used for Krishna consciousness. That's an interesting idea, isn't it? Anyway, you all think about that, because that's the current understanding of the GBC body, actually. Plus then you should do something for preaching. You should do some service, and particularly some preaching service. Now, let me just ask a question. I don't know, Hare Krishna Africa Prabhu, or Salika Das Prabhu, or somebody. I have to finish in approximately 10 or 12 minutes, maybe maximum 15. Are we going to have some questions before we finish, or what happens?
Yes, Maharaj, we'll give a chance for the devotee to ask question, Maharaj. We give chance for devotee to ask question, Maharaj. Hare Krishna, Maharaj, please unmute yourself. You're muted.
What happened? I didn't mute myself. Okay, anyway. Yeah, so what to do? Will they put them in the chat? Or
Yes.
they want to speak them?
Yes, some devotee like to put the question in the chat room, and some raise their hand to ask the question. So either way, Maharaj, we can attend to them.
All right. Well, there's no question that I'm aware of now.
Yes, but
is there?
Reason and Keshava Prabhu wants to ask you a question. Keshava Prabhu, please unmute yourself.
Oh, who is it?
Keshava Prabhu.
Krishna Nam.
Keshava.
Oh, Keshava.
Yeah.
Keshava.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Keshava Prabhu.
My business is Maharaj. I mean no disrespect to you or anybody, but I was just, as you were speaking, I was just thinking about an old term, absolute truth below, relative truth above. And then you start speaking about the issue of householders setting aside 50% of their leftover income, to further the mission.
Right.
And we all know that this is the age of quarrel and hypocrisy, and the higher levels of ISKCON, they are not entirely free of hypocrisy, as everybody well knows. Now, the thing is, and in the Gita said that whatever great men do, common men follow. And we have examples in ISKCON of sannyasis who have taken temple money and they've loaned it to devotees so that they could put a down payment and buy a house. In many cases, we see a lot of leaders living, not simple living, very extravagant living with properties of their own in Mayapur and Vrindavan and this kind of thing. So it's understandable, I feel, that there would be an erosion of faith and trust in the leadership when devotees are told to live a certain way, yet the leaders don't really live the lives that they profess that they want other people to live. And then you look at missions, people who join Mother Teresa's mission, for example. The women have 2 or 3 saris. They wash their own clothes by hand. So I think in order we can say that the Shastra says this, the Bhagavatam says this, the Gita says this, Prabhupada says this, but actions do speak louder than words. And I think if we expect devotees to make a commitment in terms of either time, money, or anything to the mission, everything has to start from the top. And I sincerely apologize for saying this, Maharaj. Really, I'm not singling anybody out, but it's just an observation that could be pretty much applied to a church, a mosque, any kind of spiritual institution. But everything does come from the top,
Okay, I take that as a comment, and I say I agree with you.
Thank you.
Well, because I do. I agree. Where are you? Are you in Africa? I can't hear you.
I'm in Vrindavan. I've been here. I've been in March. I've been in Vrindavan since March.
Oh, okay.
And before that, I spent a lot of time in East Africa, and Dhira Damodar Maharaj and Srivas Prabhu have extended an offer to me to come to spend some time in West Africa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else got a comment, question, whatever? Oh,
Yes,
Kusha
yes.
Das.
Sir Krishna Maharaj, my humble obeisances. In the course of your lecture in the beginning, you made mention that you don't know how we practice Krishna consciousness in West Africa.
Right.
So I was a bit shocked because I was thinking, does Prabhupada give different kind of practice of Krishna consciousness in different countries? Is it not the same thing all over the world?
Okay. Anyway, that's a nice point, but the cultural and social environments in which Krishna consciousness is practiced in different places, it has some effects, maybe more or less superficial, but some effects on how the devotees practice Krishna consciousness. Like, for example, the cooking traditions in different countries, they really affect, in many cases, the way the devotees cook and the prasadam they eat. Like in Italy, the devotees eat Italian prasadam. In India, it's Indian style. In Russia, where, I used to spend a lot of time. I used to spend, about 6 months a year, 5 to 6, about 6 generally, or say 5 to 6 months a year. They have a really different way of cooking. Plus, they have their own languages. So, and their different social environments. Like, I'll give you an example. In Russia, the devotees, unless they are going out on Harinam, and even sometimes when they go out on Harinam also, but unless they're going out on Harinam, in public, they don't wear devotee clothes or tilak. They don't do it. It's a very small minority do. But in other places, they wear devotee clothes, like here in South Africa, because of the social, cultural environment, we wear devotee clothes. Generally, always. So, yeah. So it's interesting, to me, it's interesting in that sense, from the cultural point of view, what the prasadam is like. and just how the devotees conduct themselves. And I've never been there. I've never been to Ghana or Nigeria, or I'm not sure where you're all from even, actually. But yeah, so yeah, like that. For me, it's just interesting that there's social environment, cultural environment.
Thank you, Maharaj. My second question is, as a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and you are preaching in Africa, is it not a bit shocking that you are in Africa and you don't really know Africa?
That I'm what? I'm preaching in Africa and
you don't really, you said you don't really know Africa because you have not been to African countries. You're only in South Africa with few blacks. As a proper disciple, is it not shocking for people to hear that you live in Africa and you don't really visit African countries? And
well,
you yourself said it now.
You know, subjectively, I don't know if it's shocking or maybe to some, but not to others. But I have duties. You know, we are ruled by our duties, our prescribed services, and my prescribed services are in certain parts of the world. Therefore, like I said, you know, up until the beginning of this year, February, I came back from Russia in early February. I have practically not been off this property here, where our temple is in Durban. I've been off the property for a few hours on maybe, I don't know exactly, but maybe once a month for medical things. Otherwise, I have been here because this is the situation at the moment. But otherwise, my duties take me to, or were taking me to, Russia. Like I said, you know, like 5 months or maybe up to 6, but approximately 5. The Baltic states, then to India for twice a year for meetings, and once a year for taking devotees on parikrama. And then I was also going to Malaysia and Singapore just because somehow I met some devotees. They asked me to come many years ago. Many, I mean, it was about at least 25 or a little more, a little less than 30 years ago. So I ended up going there. And I don't generally go anywhere unless it's part of my prescribed duty. That's my personal practice. And I know for many other senior devotees, it's also like that. So to travel into Africa, it's not my area. It's not part of my duty. I wouldn't mind doing it. I mean, I would do it. I would just do it if I was, you know, if the GBC body told me to do it. But otherwise, you know, I travel like I was saying, and I'm in South Africa. I would generally be in South Africa maybe 2 months in a year, generally, because I'm traveling so much to the other places. And like in Russia, I mean, in all those places, actually, in all those places where I'm traveling, you know, Keshava Prabhu was talking about having houses here and there, or you know, just special facilities in general, perhaps. You know, when I'm traveling around, it's practically never spend more than 3 days in one place. And then I'm off to another place and another place and another place. Wow, it's amazing. Yeah, huge amount of traveling and not sitting around, really not sitting around in luxurious facilities. I mean, you can see where I'm living here. Have a look. This is where I'm living.
Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Anyway, yeah, you know, we'll see what happens. Maybe I'll come. Where are you all actually in Africa?
We have Nigeria, we have Togo, we have Ghana, we have Ivory Coast. These are all countries in West Africa, Maharaj.
Okay.
And also, Maharaj, I don't want you to bother so much about this question of coming to West Africa, because many times we tell devotees not to ask this question, because many GBC, they have various duties. They are doing different parts of the world. And except it's their duties to go to a particular country, sometimes they don't need to go, except sometimes they are invited on for festivals. You know,
Right.
so we don't want you to feel bad for not coming to Nigeria or Ghana. In the future, if you want to come, we can invite you. So, but already normally we tell the devotee not to ask this kind of question, because we already have somebody that is representing Prabhupada here. His Holiness Kavichandra Swami Maharaj comes here, and many other senior devotees come around also. So Maharaj, don't bother so much about this. Maybe in the future, if we have some festival program, we can invite you, Maharaj.
Okay,
So,
okay.
We have a devotee raising his hand, Sade Prabhu. He wants to ask you a question.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Sahadev Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for coming to our platform and giving us your association.
It's my pleasure and honor.
Yeah. Maharaj, I have one question. You kind of gave me a little bit of relief, because when you read from the purport, Srila Prabhupada emphasizing on 50% household income. And I was thinking to myself, if I did that, I would not be able to survive, because 50% of my income means that I will not even be able to pay my house rent.
Yes, I understand.
I'm so thankful that you further explained the GBC's version or understanding to that.
Right.
Now, my question is not particularly related to this text, but it's something that I've been wondering and bothered about for quite some time. That is something to do with Sita, Ram, Lakshman, Hanuman. Bharath, Maharaj Bharath, which is the brother of Ram.
Yeah.
I would say like a stepbrother to Ram. He became a king. Ram should have been the king. And he became a king because of his dubious mother's actions. Now, their father died in so much anxiety and sadness that his son, Bharat, has pushed his beloved son, Ram, into the forest, and he died with that anxiety and distress. So my question is, how does Bharat relieve himself of the thought that his father had about him, that through his machinations, his brother Ram is being sent to the forest, even though he never did anything like that? So coming back to our own lives as devotees and as people in general, if in a situation somebody does or says something about you, which in reality you knew nothing about, but the circumstance around it suggests that you did it or you said it. In such a situation, what do you do? Thank you, Maharaj.
Well, see, you know, in the pastimes of the Lord, there are certain parts which are exemplary, and there are certain parts which are just the Lord's independent pastimes, you know, and they're not setting examples. He's just, doing his pastimes. So the pastimes like Krishna dancing with the gopis, for example, he is not trying to set an example. When he does other things, like he became a disciple of Sandipani Muni, and he was fully dedicated. That's an example. With Lord Ram, you know, certain parts of what he did were exemplary. He only accepted one wife. Ekapatni Vrata. This is exemplary. But some other things like banishing his wife, you know, which he did later on, this is not exemplary. It's the Leela. And this whole thing about Dasarath, the father, being forced to banish Ram, and then the idea Bharat would rule, it's not exemplary. It's Leela. You know, there are exemplary aspects to it, but the general context of it is not exemplary. You know, there's an exemplary aspect is that Lord Ram, his father ordered him, go to the forest, you know, under unavoidable pressure, the father ordered him. You know, I assume you know the story well enough that, you know, what's her name, Caitanya, saved the life of Dasarath in battle, saved his life. So Dasarath said, okay, tell me what you want, it's yours. That's all. Anything, just anything. And Caitanya said, well, you know, I'll wait. So she waited till that time when Ram was just about to be crowned. And then she said, okay, you know, banish him, Bharat becomes king. And so it was unavoidable for Dasarath. It's Leela. Well, I mean, it's sort of exemplary in a sense. If you take a vow, you got to uphold your vow. You can't rethink it later on. But for Ram, when his father ordered him, you know, I should, if I'd known you were going to ask, I've got some of the context from Ramayana, the things that Lord Ram says. And, you know, he accepts the order of his father absolutely. Because his father, you know, his father's not just his father, he's also a very great spiritual person. So it's like accepting the order of the spiritual master, that it's exemplary. Lord Ram accepted. And when Caitanya said to Lord Ram, like, you know, tough luck, ha, 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 you thought you were going to be the king, but, you know, you're not. So, you know, it's your problem. Like she was thinking that Lord Ram would be upset. Oh, I'm not going to be the king. Oh, this is not good. But Lord Ram, when she spoke to him like that, Lord Ram said, why are you speaking to me like this? If my father, whatever my father orders me to do, I accept as being for my topmost benefit. It is the best thing for me. So if he's given me this order, I accept it with great joy. So that's exemplary. That's exemplary. And then so then Dasarath died, and then Lord Ram told Bharat, you rule. So, and Lord Ram is the older brother. And when the older brother in Vedic culture, when the older brother tells you, you do something, you do it. It's like the spiritual master ordering. It's not like, well, okay, let me think about it and, we'll try our best or something. That's it. That's it. That's the end of the story. But because Bharat, of course, he understood the whole situation, and he was, within himself, he was extremely unhappy about it. So even though he was ruling, he lived like with nothing. Yeah. He didn't live in luxury like the king. Yeah, he lived in a hut. But he ruled because Ram had ordered him. He ruled, and he ran the kingdom expertly. But he didn't accept the trappings of the king. So now, your specific point, can you just repeat your specific point?
Yes, Maharaj, I was saying, like applying this scenario into our own lives.
Right.
In a situation where somebody says something about you to maybe authorities, whereby you knew nothing about what is being reported to the authority.
Okay.
What do you do in such a situation?
Which is something which is inaccurate.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, well, it depends, but, you definitely have the right, and it may actually even be your duty to clarify. Yeah, it's not necessarily, if you want to clarify, if there's a misunderstanding, whether it's a deliberate misrepresentation or whether it's actually just a misunderstanding of certain circumstances, you have at least the right to clarify, and you may actually have the duty to clarify. Yeah. But, it's also possible that you might feel that this is, some reaction from some nonsense I did before, like really before, not just immediate in the immediate circumstances. And this is Krishna giving me a reaction, and therefore I should just accept it because, at least I can continue doing devotional service and not make a big fuss about it. So it depends, it depends. And in order to make the decision, should I actually come forward and clarify, or should I just accept it as the mercy of the Lord and tolerate? If it's, well, to make a good decision, generally I would say you should take advice. You should take advice from seniors, even from your spiritual master, if it's possible, or if you have like a Siksha guru, or, just some close associate devotees who are senior and they're very knowledgeable, and, they're interested in you, they care about you. It would be best to take advice, because in such a situation, it can be difficult unless someone is, sufficiently advanced. It can be difficult to decide, should I stand up and say, hey, hang on a minute, it's not like that? Or should I just sit down and say, okay, all right, no problem. Yeah, so to take advice would be, I would say, pretty much essential. Yeah, and because, I'll tell you one thing, that in the beginning of the 10th canto, there's the story, of course, of Vasudeva and Devaki. They've just been married. Kamsa is taking them on the chariot back to the home of Vasudeva's family. And you know the story. Kamsa, the voice comes in the sky that the 8th child of this woman's going to kill you. Kamsa's then going to kill her. And Vasudeva speaks up. So there, one point which is made in that the whole sequence of the discussion between Vasudeva and Kamsa, one point which is made is that if your life is in danger physically, somehow or other, you have a duty to try to save your life.
Okay.
Yeah, you have a duty. Some people might argue that in such a situation, there's deadly danger. You should just, say, oh, Haribol, and die. But that's not what the Bhagavatam says. You have a duty to try to save your life. And therefore, Vasudeva, he had a duty to try to save the life of Devaki.
Mhm.
So, it's kind of somewhat related to what you're talking about. It could be argued, just accept, let them say what they like, whether it's total nonsense or whatever it is, just don't say anything. But it's also quite valid to present clarification. But then after you've presented the clarification, then you should just wait for the decision of the devotees and not, make a political party about it or create a revolution or something. Yell and scream. But I'm a good guy. I'm not a bad guy. Okay.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. You asked a couple of questions while you were giving the lectures, and I wanted to answer a couple of them. One about, I don't know very much about the other parts of Africa, but in West Africa, the congregation is mostly about 90-95% the local people.
Right.
Yes, it's about 90-95% are the local people, not like Indians or.
Uh-huh.
So the preaching is mostly to the communities.
Right.
Even though we we usually preach in English or in French if it's in a French country, because we also have international devotees. Like in Ghana, you may have Nigerian devotees living in Ghana, or in Nigeria, you may have Ghanaian devotees living in Nigeria. So to make the communication much easier, we usually communicate in the international languages instead of the lingua franca. So we speak in either French or in English so that everybody understands what's going on. But congregation-wise, it's mostly 90-95% the indigenous people.
Right. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
And everybody in the English-speaking countries, everyone understands English, is it?
Few do not understand, but by the mercy of devotional service, they end up understanding because that's what is spoken in the temple. So they end up speaking English.
I see.
Yes.
Well, like I said, I go to Russia, and there, it's changed slightly. I've been going for the last almost 30 years.
Wow.
Now you get a few people who speak English. Previously, practically no one. So I learned Russian.
Oh.
Yeah, I spoke Russian. I speak Russian. Wow. On a conversational level. I can give a class, but don't ask me to learn another language, please. I can speak some French, actually.
Oh, okay.
J'ai étudié à l'école, dans l'école, beaucoup des ans avant. Mais j'ai oublié beaucoup.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Thank you very much, Maharaj.
And sorry, one other thing, Maharaj. I think it was one of your disciples who was like trying to get on the platform, and you said he couldn't. In the near future, when we are fortunate to have your association, that is also possible. They can also join.
Well, okay, yeah. See, we have this whole system. We have this whole thing going on we chant japa together twice a day. Okay. And generally there's a class, sometimes every day, sometimes every other day. And through Zoom, we have a whole system of translation into Russian Zoom, into Hindi Zoom, into Bengali Zoom, and we're starting Lithuanian Zoom and Chinese Zoom. So we have all these Zoom systems, and he wanted to connect. He's the chief translator and organizer.
Okay.
And he wanted to connect us up. But it takes, it would have taken me about 20 minutes to connect up. Oh, yeah. At least 15 minutes, because you got to do each language group. You got to connect them up separately. And then the next language group. It takes time. So therefore I told him, okay, look, sorry. Okay, but next time, we must arrange things better.
Yes. Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
So, Maharaj, we have two hands up. Is Grace Ganga Prasad Prabhu wants to ask you a question, Maharaj. And after that,
Hare Krishna Maharaj, obeisances at your lotus feet, all glories to Guru and Goranga, all glories to Slap. Thank you, Maharaj, for the lecture. I have a question that has to do with the area of the 50% of income.
Okay.
You cannot succor by doing some exemption after tax, after expenditure, then the 50%.
Right.
But my point is from there. What about in a situation where even the devotee barely can take care of his bills? say nothing of having extra that he cannot give out 50% from. Will
Right.
there not be a situation where he's feeling is a good for nothing? That's the point. Like the case of Vipra Sudama in Bhagavatam,
Right.
he was impoverished.
Sure.
Expect him to give 50%, that is way out.
Sure.
What about devotees who cannot even take care of their basic needs?
Right.
And then don't have extra, and then they can't give 50%?
Right.
Will this make them start thinking they are good, they are useless, good for nothing?
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I understand. I understand. You know, the thing is this, that if a devotee is genuinely in such a situation, they're just like subsistence level, then okay, then at least they should try to do some regular service for the temple, for the devotee community. If they're genuinely like that, they don't need to sort of, you know, what would you say? I mean, you could say self-flagellate, but they don't need to punish themselves if they're genuinely, actually not able. If they're genuinely unable, then they just have to recognize that. But, you know, they should try and give some of their time and some of their physical energy. You know, if they just haven't got enough money and they have no time and no energy, well, that's a shame. They should at least have some intelligence to see how, you know, they can organize their lives, that even if they can't give $1 a year, at least they can do some service. Yeah. Is that okay?
Thank you very much, Maharaj. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I have a question, Maharaj. Yes, Maharaj, thank you very much for taking your time to come to visit our platform. The second time, we really appreciate your time, Maharaj. So my question is related to what Keshava Prabhu asked, and also about the 50%. So sometimes, like here in Nigeria, where so many pastors who are doing well materially,
right,
very affluent, and also in different parts of the world, we have these people doing nicely. My question is that, and also in the devotional environment, we have devotees sometimes, because in the scripture it's mentioned that the devotee, that is a pure devotee representative of God, should be treated like God on this planet. So my question is that we see in many places, people generally, they have problem with saintly people being treated nicely, like getting a good accommodation, nice treatment. People have problem with this, or maybe sometimes having private jets also. People have problem with this, but when the materialistic people are enjoying this so-called energy of Krishna, they don't look like having problem with that. So my question is that, why is it why people generally have problem with servants of God enjoying the property of their father? That is number.
Okay. Well, you know, the thing is, it's not our position in principle is not to enjoy the property of our father. Our position is to use the property of our father in the service of our father, and for ourselves to live a simple life. You know, simple life doesn't have to mean, like I said, living under a tree. Particularly for householders, it would mean, you know, a simple but responsible standard of living. not extravagant, really not extravagant. Extravagance means, you've gone in the wrong direction. So you don't need, you may need a motor car. You may need a motor car. So, okay, get a motor car, but generally you don't need an expensive motor car. Yeah. You don't need, generally you won't need a Mercedes-Benz, for example. Yeah, it's only really like, some devotees who come from very affluent, like big business backgrounds, and they're involved in big business. In order to maintain a sort of a profile in the business community, they have to maintain a more opulent standard of living than what I've been talking about, not just a very simple standard. But otherwise, unless there's a real need, we should, devotee householders should maintain a simple but responsible type of lifestyle, standard of living. And, because, one thing, if the people in general see us, and Prabhupada talked about this, if they see us living like in real poverty, where it's just too poor, too bad, then that'll put them off Krishna consciousness.
Yes.
So devotees should have, like a moderate standard, you could say. So when the ordinary people see, then they'll think, okay, that's all right. And they're not going to think that, God, look at these guys. What are they doing? Why are they living like that? Yeah. So, there's a story. Let me tell you a story, actually.
Yes, Maharaj.
From Mahabharata. Maybe you may well have heard it before. One time, Maharaj Yudhisthira approached Lord Krishna and said, "My Lord, I want lots of money. Please give me lots of money." Krishna was surprised. And Maharaj Yudhisthira said, "My Lord, I want a big palace." Krishna said, "Listen, you already got a palace." And Maharaj Yudhisthira said, "I want a bigger one. I want another one. Yeah. And I want more servants." And Krishna said to Maharaj Yudhisthira, "I thought you only wanted to serve me. And you're not interested in material facility." And Maharaj Yudhisthira said, No. I want lots of money and material facility and palaces. And Krishna was really disappointed. And Krishna said, I misunderstood you. I thought you were a great devotee. And then Maharaj Yudhisthira said, the thing is this. I want the ordinary people to see that here is one of your devotees, like a really serious devotee, and he's living in a really good material situation. And then the people will think, oh yeah, I can become a devotee then also. You follow the idea?
Yes, Maharaj, very nice.
That was his thinking. That was his thinking. Like when I joined, when I joined in London in January 1973, there were in our brahmachari ashram, there were 2 rooms. Each room at night, the rooms are like the size of this room. You see behind me here, this is,
Yes, Maharaj.
but I mean, if any bigger, just maybe slightly bigger, but maybe not any bigger. We had at least 20 devotees living in that room. And when we took rest at night, everyone lay down, and then the next one lay down, and then the next one. And we were all in position. And no one just lay down wherever they liked. And if you came in late, you had to just find a little space. Oh yeah, seriously. A little space between two devotees. And how many times I woke up with someone's foot in my face or someone's elbow in my face. It was happening regularly. But, you know, only people from a certain type of background can live like that. Your general person can't live like that. So devotees should live in, those were the hippie days, and the hippies would do almost anything. But we should maintain, you know, not extravagant, but decent, moderate standards of living, so that when people see us, they will think, oh yeah, okay, you know, I could live like that. You follow?
Yes, Maharaj. And also, Maharaj, regarding the 50%, Maharaj,
Yeah.
so I read in one part of Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada was saying in the purport that if a devotee is able to give the 50% of his earning, like he mentioned in this purport we read today, and also be able to preach the code of Krishna consciousness, is that devotee is as pure as a devotee, as a renunciant devotee living in the temple.
Right.
I don't know what you think about this, Maharaj.
That's true, of course. You know, there are many devotees who are householders, who are working and maintaining their families, and they're really sincere devotees. They chant their rounds every day. You know, they do service whenever they can. So such a person may be considered a pure devotee. And you can get, like Keshava Prabhu said earlier, some who are renunciates, you know, in the sense of household life, but they may be living in, like, I don't know about like really materially opulent situations. Personally, I don't see that going on, frankly, but, you know, they may have some material facility. And maybe in some cases, I mean, there are cases sometimes of senior devotees who, you know, they get caught up by material attractions. These things happen. And they may not be pure devotees. They may be in Maya. So we have to evaluate each person, each case, on a case-by-case basis, because sometimes it's not so simple.
Yes, Maharaj.
Yeah.
Thank you very much,
Okay,
Maharaj.
I think I'm going to have to go now.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you very much, Maharaj, for your time. We really appreciate your coming to our platform. So we hope to see you again. We love that devotees to please unmute themselves and let us chant one Hare Krishna mantra to appreciate Maharaj coming. Hare Krishna.
Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for your association.